Welcome to the Pie Tote Design Number 1 Sewing Embroidery class. There's two options on how to do this. The first option is you take a regular canvas tote bag and you rip the seams on the side open on both sides, and then you just simply lay it open and then start working from there. In option number 2, you're going to create your own tote bag. For all those parties we attend during the holidays, what better way to transport a pie than in a pie tote carrier? So today we're going to be making our own pie tote carrier, and these are the materials you're going to need. You're going to need one piece of your main fabric that's going to be 33 by 17.5, and that's this light colored. The lining is going to be 29 by 17.5, and I'm also going to quilt it. So I'm putting a piece of thin cotton in between the two layers, and I'm going to quilt it, but that's optional. For the straps, you need 2 pieces of fabric, 4 inches by 23 inches, and you also need 2 pieces of thin flexible foam that's 7/8 by 21 inches long. So let's get started. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take a piece of our strap and we're going to fold it in half and we're going to press it. And I've done that to this piece as well as my second piece. I have folded it in half and I pressed it. Next thing you do is you're going to take the edge of the strap lengthwise, fold it toward the center, and then fold the other edge toward the center. Fold that in half and then press it down. And you're going to do this to both straps. In the next step, the idea is to insert this flexible foam inside of your straps. So I'm going to open up my strap, place the end right on one of these lines on my cutting mat here. I'm going to place my strap, roughly about 1 inch away from the edge, right along that pressed edge. And then I'm going to fold back the fabric to cover that, and then fold the other end up, and then I'm going to pin it in place. And you're going to do this for the entire length of your strap, and you're going to do the same process on the other strap. So now that the flexible foam is in place and I have pinned all along the edge, I'm going to take it to the sewing machine and I'm going to stitch 1/4 of an inch in from that edge and 1/4 of an inch in from this edge. So the straps are done. We're going to put them aside. We stitched 1/4 of an inch in from the right side and from the left side, and I did it to both straps. So next we're going to be working on the body of the pie tote. If you're using denim or canvas or a duck type heavy cotton fabric, you do not need to do this quilting process with the lining and the front, because the fabrics are heavy enough. Because I'm using cotton fabric, I went ahead and used the batting and the lining and the top fabric simply to bulk up that fabric to hold that pie. If you have and you're using a heavy cotton fabric like denim or duck or canvas, pretend like this is my heavy denim fabric here. On the short side, you're going to fold it 2 inches away from the edge and you're going to press it, and then you're going to fold under 1 inch and you're going to press it. And again, it's only a single fabric, but you're going to stitch right along the edge about 1/8 of an inch on the inside as well as on the outside. Again, this is the process you would use if you're using a heavy denim or a canvas fabric that don't require it to be any heavier. But if you're using regular quilting cotton fabric. We need to add bulk to the fabric so that it will hold that pie that you're carrying to the party. 2 layers of fabric with the batting together. My main fabric, which is a lighter color, I cut 33 by 17.5 inches. My lining fabric and my batting I cut to 29 by 17.5 inches, and I laid it out 2 inches below one of the short edges. So I folded over 2 inches, and then I folded it in half to where I end up with a 1-inch hem here. And the reason my batting and my lining are shorter is because I wanted to reduce the bulk in this area. So if you lay out your fabric and your batting, you should be shy 2 inches at the other end, and you do the same thing. You're going to fold it over 2 inches and then under 1 inch. And after you have done your quilting, you're going to stitch right 1/8 of an inch right along this edge of the fabric here, as well as from the edge. I have finished quilting my 3 pieces together, so now you treat it as one. So the next steps, regardless of whether you're doing the heavy canvas or you've quilted your fabric, you're going to turn to the back side. You're going to flip it over 2 inches, tuck it in 1 inch. Now you're going to find the center of your width on the short side, and here's my center, and I marked it. And then you're going to mark 3 inches away from the center. So here's my 3-inch mark to the left and my 3-inch mark to the right. And then you're going to take your strap, or one of your straps, and you're simply going to hold it out straight and bring it in together. And on the inside edge, you're going to line up that inside edge of your strap to that mark that you drew that's 3 inches away from the center, and you're going to pin. And then you're going to take the other strap and line it up. The inside of your strap is going to be right on that line that you drew that's 3 inches away from the center. And you're going to pin it in place. You're going to do the same thing to the strap on the other side. And now you're going to stitch 1/8 of an inch away from this edge, as well as away from the top. After you have stitched along the edge of each of the ends, as well as on the inside, you're going to flip your straps, lay them flat, flip your straps to the front, and you're going to pin them in place. And you're going to do the same thing to the other side. And then right on that stitch line, you're going to stitch right there. Just go over those stitches along that strap. The straps have been completed. They're stitched. Now the next step is, if you have a serger, just stitch right along the edge, the raw edges on both sides of your tote. If you don't have a serger, just use a zigzag stitch and just stitch along the edge on both sides. For those of you with an embroidery machine who want to put a design on your Pie Tote, we're going to be using a design out of the Kimberbell Over the Edge applique Fall and Winter Wonder. And we're going to use that snowman right here. and we're going to place him in this area right here of your tote bag. For those of you who don't have an embroidery machine, to finish the Pie Tote, here's what you do. You fold your tote in half, and you mark that point right there, the halfway mark, and you do the same thing to the other side. You fold it in half, and you mark that halfway mark. So now you have a center. So with the right side facing you, you're going to bring the edge of the top, and you're going to line it up right to that mark, and you're going to pin. You're going to take the other side, and without overlapping the two edges, you're going to take it to the center, and you're going to pin. You're going to do the same thing to the other side. Here's my center mark. I'm going to take the edge, place it right on that mark, along the edge, and I'm going to pin. Again, without overlapping the two edges, take it to that center mark, and pin the two edges. And then you take it to your sewing machine, and you're going to stitch a 1/2 inch seam right down these edges on both sides. 1/2 inch seam. When you have completed your stitching, you just simply because your edges are already finished, you simply turn this inside out, and you have your pie carrier. For those of you who are going to embroidery the snowman, you're going to require 2 pieces of the white applique glitter sheets. That's 4.5 by 6. 2 pieces for the hat, and that's whatever color you would like. But you need 2 pieces of 3.5 by 3.5. A flexible foam interfacing for the snowman. That's 3.5 by 3.5. And then the different threads, the red, and I'm using the red bobbin. Whenever I change the color on top, I'm going to change the bobbin. The orange for the nose, the black for the mouth and the buttons, and this blue for the tassel, and the white for the snowman. You're also going to need a 5 by 7 hoop with 2 layers of wash-away stabilizer. With a water-soluble pen, you're going to draw a line finding the center. So from left to right and from top down, you're going to find the center mark on your 5 by 7 hoop. And now I want you to draw a line 2 1/8 inch away from the horizontal center line, and then you draw yourself a line up at the top. What that line does is that's your placement line for the top of your tote. Now you need to find the center of the short edge, and you're going to line up your tote edge to that line with the center being centered with that vertical line. So your tote is lined up vertically as well as horizontally, and you're going to pin this in place. I'm going to load my design, so I'm going to the pocket. I'm using a USB stick. I put it in the B pocket. My format is PES. I'm going to Flaky Friends. I'm doing the placemat. The 5 by 7, it says 5 by 7 pocket only. And I'm going to bring up the snowman design. Now remember, this design is meant to be put on a pocket, but we're going to bypass the pocket and only use the design. So right now the design with the pocket is centered. And I'm going to hit this plus and minus. See the way right now it's going to stitch. The pocket, but I don't want to do the pocket. So I'm moving through it. And here's where my snowman starts. So the first thing we're going to stitch is the outline of the snowman. The other thing, make sure that your snowman is centered. So I'm hitting that center button just to make sure that it's centered, and it is. I used a very light spray adhesive to adhere the tote to the 5x7 hoop. And remember that line that we drew that was above the center? That's my placing line for the edge of the tote, and I centered it vertically with that center line. So now we're going to stitch the snowman body. If you're using the glitter fabric, you need to remove the plastic cover. And line it up right over that stitch line of the body. And you're going to tape it in place. Now, because I want the back side to look the same as the front, I'm going to remove the hoop, flip it over, and I'm going to adhere a piece of glitter fabric to the back side and tape it down. So next I'm going to adhere the glitter fabric to the wrong side and tape it down. Next, we're going to stitch the tack down line. Now remove your hoop and trim the snowman glitter fabric from both the front and the back right along the edge of the stitch line. So I removed the hoop, and now I'm going to trim and remove the tape. Next, we're going to stitch the decorative outline. Next, tape the top edge of your tote so that the presser foot doesn't get caught. And we're going to stitch the foam placement line. I'm going to remove the tape. and place the foam and tape it down. Now we're going to stitch the foam tack down line. We're going to remove the hoop and trim the flexi foam right along the stitch line. Next, we're going to stitch the hat tack down line. I'm going to remove the hoop and trim the fabric close to the stitch line on the front and the back. I'm going to trim the hat in the front and the back, right close to that stitch line. I'm going to return the hoop and change the thread to orange to do the nose. Next, we're going to stitch the nose with a satin stitch. Next, we change our thread to black and we're going to stitch the eyes, the mouth, and the buttons using a satin stitch. I changed my thread to red and now I'm going to stitch the hat satin outline stitch. I changed my thread to a green and now I'm going to stitch the hat satin detail stitch. Next, we're going to stitch the top pom-pom fringe stitches. I left my top colored green and changed my bobbin to white. Bobbin back to green and now we're going to stitch the tag down fringe stitches. Bobbin back to white and we're going to stitch the tassels fringe stitches. I removed the hoop from the machine, and I'm gonna turn your hoop to the back side, and I'm gonna very carefully rip the bobbin thread with my seam ripper. I'm gonna do that to the pom-pom on top and to the ones on the bottom. Then you turn your hoop to the right side, and again very carefully just kind of pull up the fringes. And that's how you create this fringe, pom-pom on the top and at the ends of the scarf. Remove your hoop. Carefully tear away the stabilizer. Not tear away, but cut away your stabilizer. And because it is a wash away stabilizer, you just get it wet and according to the instructions and let this soak out. And then you proceed to trim the stitches in the back. I have dissolved the water, the wash away stabilizer, and then I've with the right sides together. Remember when we found the center lengthwise? So now you're going to bring the end of the top section and align it to that blue mark that I marked as the center, and I'm going to pin. Next, you flip over the other side, and without overlapping, you line it up, the raw edges together. You line up the raw edges together and you pin. And you do the same thing to the other side. Here's my blue mark right here. I'm going to align this edge to that blue mark. My raw edges are together and even, and then I'm going to pin. And then I do the same thing to the other side. Now I go to the sewing machine and I'm going to stitch a 1/2 inch seam on both sides. Once you have finished stitching the 1/2 inch seam, you're going to turn it inside out. So here's how it works. You take your pie pan, you open up your bag, and you insert it, and then you carry it away. And this completes the Pie Tote bag. So go sew some totes for some of your friends.